I'm Devlin Wardell, co-founder and director of Dewmore Baltimore. We're an organization that uses art as a tool for advocacy in marginalized communities. So because my background is literary arts, we use publishing, poetry, and anything else that can fall into that category to engage folk and get them talking and communicating. So our approach is really about getting to the truth of the issue, and by truth I mean the internal truth of that member of the community. So in the literary work we do, in the writing process, people come to better understand who they are and in turn get a better idea of what their relationship to their community is. And consequently, once that understanding comes, I don't know that there's room to not be changed. So with the Baltimore City Youth Poetry Team, which is one of our programs, and it's a program where young folk write and perform poetry in competition and for the sake of performance. And we got a group of new folk, new to the world of competition, and new to the world of writing purposefully, and in pushing them, they came to understand a lot about themselves. One young lady, we went to DC for the weekend, and she had this great piece, a really light, airy, metaphorical piece about her relationship with her sister. And we were workshopping the piece, trying to figure out why the performance didn't resonate in the way that it should. And with some prodding, we came to realize that she wasn't prepared to deal with what that real truth is. She started out in a place of emoting, but in a way to cover it up. And what we were working toward was getting her to be present in that work, be present in the piece versus using it as a way to hide from the emotion. So I think that is my most exciting example. We cannot implant a value system into someone. We can't force somebody to come to an understanding. In fact, part of our value is that, one of our values is that we don't believe in assigning our program to a community. We have to be invited in, and we are told when and how we help. So in being intentional with that process, it allows for the folks who participate in our programs to feel free to work with us toward whatever the end may be. So if an individual isn't coming to his or her own understanding, we aren't successful because the real change hasn't happened. You know, you can get your child to clean her room when you tell it to. The question is she going to clean it when it gets dirty before you get home? And that's where we try to get them to, whether it's in the broader community or with an individual in their work. I think the young people are commanding respect. I don't think I'll say adults outside of the community are coming willfully. I think they're being pulled in by the power of voice. What people don't get offhand, and sometimes even when they experience it, is that voice, and the assertion of voice is probably the most powerful tool there is. So when young folks speak, whether it's the performance poets, as they are the most dynamic in presentation, or some young folk who have contributed to a publishing project, the adults are compelled to think. They're compelled to be introspective. If this 15-year-old is thinking on this level, what am I doing with my life? I need to rethink some stuff. It happens to me fairly regularly. So social justice for me is really simple. In fact, Dewmore is looking to publish a work, having folks define social justice in their own words. So I've put a lot of thought into it, and it's really, really simple for me. Social justice is any work toward equity. I see art and design advancing the cause of social justice almost simply as a byproduct of what it is. For me, art is about emoting in a creative way. It's about expressing yourself freely. And in my experience, again, voice or expression commands respect. Commanding that respect is demanding equity. I think art and design has played a pretty big role in changing things in Baltimore. For me, the question is how that change has happened and who that change has happened for, and to what degree the intentional change is productive for the I guess I'll call them the indigenous members of Baltimore City. Baltimore is becoming a really artsy place. The problem with that is that I don't think it's becoming any more inclusive. And maybe inclusive is the wrong term, because I think folk make an effort to be inclusive, but it is on the terms of the folk who are bringing the art. I am not interested in being included in mural painting because it's hot outside. So if a mural painter comes into a community, not saying that there's anything wrong with it, I've seen some beautiful work, but it needs to include those folks who are interested in painting murals and not be listed as some minor salvation of the block that we have this beautiful piece of artwork if 98% of the population of that block has been excluded. I don't think that could be considered effective change. Aesthetically pleasing change, maybe. Effective change is inclusive change. So, social justice advocate or change agent. That is a really, really interesting question for me, in that I've been wrestling with it probably for the past 10 years. I found art as a means of saving my life. Literally, I didn't know what else to do, so I started writing. I wrote for about 5 years, and I decided I should share my work. And based on that feedback, I wrote more, and I began to teach folk how to write and encourage folk to write. Dewmore has only made that work more official. So I think, at least for me, there is no choice but for them to work in concert. I don't know. Okay, I think writing is everything. Like, I'm just gonna say it. I think the writing is the answer to every question. And if you're answering questions, you're working toward equity. If you have 2 cents, 2 good cents in your brain, like if you know. So if you're answering questions, you're working toward equity. If you're working toward equity, you're a change agent. They cannot be separated for me. And I do have to say, though, that I don't think that's true of every writer. In fact, I think some writers are counterproductive to the cause of social justice or equity. And I wonder if it's intentional.